Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Muslims Uncensored with me, your favourite Viking Muslim, and Roshan Salih, who is, I guess, a wet Welshman, really. I don't know how to describe you, sort of...
Welsh Sri Lankan.
Yeah, Welsh Sri Lankan. Yeah, that'll have to do, I'm afraid. Well, there you go. We're here. But before we get off with the show, because there's some really good stories to discuss today. The collapse of Christianity, favourite one here for us at Five Pillars, the rise of Islam, and others, Ponzi schemes and so on. I want to ask you, Roshan, about you and this fist fight with an old granny. You tweeted about it. There's no video footage evidence, but yeah, what
You don't believe it
happened?
happened?
I don't know what happened, to be honest with you. I mean,
Well,
what was it?
It wasn't a fist fight. It was an altercation with an old granny. Can I first say, yeah, you're right. There is no evidence, so everyone just has to take my word for it. But what I would say in mitigation is, if I did make it up, I'd make it far more impressive. It would be like six foot skinheads. I took them all on. I was doing my Ip Man impression, all that kind of stuff. But no, what happened is I was walking to the supermarket near my home, and there was this. I would say she was Eastern European from her accent.
Okay.
Definitely, I would say late 50s, early 60s, maybe.
Okay.
And she was muttering to herself, and I thought she was talking to somebody on her phone or headphones.
Yeah, sure.
And then I realized she was talking to me because I was wearing shalwar kameez. And she was saying, me atheist, Muslim ugly, Muslim ugly. And I was like, I didn't understand what she was saying at first because it was such a strong accent. And then I realized she was talking to me, and immediately I was like, yeah, I did swear. I'm sorry to say that. But I was like, oh, you hate Muslims, do you? Well, you're ugly. It's atheists that are ugly. You're the ugliest. And, all that kind of stuff. And I reached for my phone, and for once, I didn't have my phone on me. Normally, I have my phone on me. It was charging at home. I wanted a bit of peace and quiet, so I thought I'd go out without my phone. And so I couldn't film her. So I went to the supermarket, and I was, thinking, what the hell just happened here? So it was a bit of a shock, Robert, because I haven't actually experienced Islamophobia face to face for quite a long time. I mean, I get it every day on Twitter or online.
Yeah.
Death threats and all kinds of being called all kinds of horrible stuff. But face to face, especially in the south of England where I live, where there's quite a multicultural population, you don't get that face-to-face racism or Islamophobia because people are too scared, basically, of antagonizing people because they know what's going to happen. So anyway, I went to do my shopping, I came back, and then she was still there waiting for an Uber in a car park. And so I thought, right, I'm going to rush in and get my phone, which I did. I came out, unfortunately, she was in the Uber and she'd gone off. So I missed the opportunity to prove to you guys who she was.
Yeah.
Because if I'd stuck a camera in her face, she definitely would have given me some because I could just tell she was that
seems
way.
a bit unhinged
but
or something.
When I put this story on Twitter, unlike you, most people didn't question its veracity, but they did question my behavior. And a lot of Muslims were saying, oh, Roshan, you did yourself no favors there, and that's not how the Prophet ﷺ would have acted. And they came up with the story of the woman who threw feces on him or urine, I'm not sure what it was, and he threw it on the cheek.
Yeah, famous.
Whereas other people were saying, no, there's nothing haram what you did. Retaliation is allowed in Islam. We are allowed to treat the kuffar, the disbelievers, harshly. We're soft on the Muslims, but we're harsh on the non-Muslims, especially those who are blatantly non-Muslim. And ultimately, if they do this kind of stuff and they get away with it and we don't respond, they're just going to do it again and again and again. So I don't know where you stand on the issue, Robert. Where do you stand? Where do the viewers stand?
Yeah, I'd like to hear what the viewers have to say. I mean, I'm a bit confused about it because I think she had a point when she looked at you and said, you're an ugly guy.
Well, I was more offended at that than anything else.
I'm joking. I'm absolutely joking.
I was more offended at that.
Yeah, I think, no.
I went straight into the mirror and I looked at myself. I'm not ugly.
Ugly Muslim, you're looking like... Yeah. But no, I think, no, I actually agree with you. I think if someome's going to be rude and racist to you, because obviously she was cussing you out for no good reason other than you looked Muslim, you wearing a Muslim outfit. Yeah, totally unprovoked. So I think, I mean, we have to defend ourselves, right? You can't just sit there and take it. But I get where people are arguing from, like, obviously we are ambassadors for our faith and stuff like that. But I think one of the things that is, as Muslims, they're the most discriminated against minority in the West right now. And I think if you just sort of allow these kind of attacks to take place, small or big, it sets a bad precedent, because now is the time to fight back against this, if anything. So I do sympathise with you.
What would you have done?
I think I would. I don't know. I would have done the same thing as you, just getting into a dissing match with an old lady. I think that's our style. I think just have a little dissing exchange. You should have done a rap battle with this lady. I think you would have won.
I mean,
that.
look, I don't think there's a right and wrong here. I think it's a choice, and I don't think it's a question of haram or halal. I think there is evidence from the Quran and Sunnah of conducting yourself a bit better than I did, but at the same time, there also is evidence for what I did as well. So I think it's a question of choice, and but I know that if I tried to kind of give her dower, she
didn't even speak English.
She wouldn't have been receptive. That was and obviously I'm making this decision in seconds. It happened all in seconds, so you don't have time to reflect and think and whatever. I'm not ashamed of my response, and I hope that she'll think twice of cussing a Muslim again if she sees them in the street because of my response.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story that happened in Chicago recently. This maybe was like a few days ago. There was again this old woman, a granny. You'd think like a sweet old granny in a coffee shop. I think she basically started harassing a Muslim couple because they were wearing a Palestinian hoodie. And like she physically was like grabbing their phone and like literally trying to assault them and stuff. I think the woman as well, the Muslim woman, was pregnant. And the guy she was with was her husband, who was basically just trying to get this crazy granny to leave him alone. And again, she was from Eastern Europe originally. She had obviously been radicalized. Yeah. I think so. This may be a trend, because it's just all these like, I don't know, grannies attacking Muslims. Basically, it's just happening all over the place.
It's because they're old. It gives them a free pass. You won't physically attack them.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not encouraging anyone to physically attack old people. But I don't think being an old racist gives you a free pass.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I think you're entitled to give it a bit back.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
all right.
That's a fun way to start.
So what do you think, brothers and sisters? Who was right? Was I right or wrong?
Should Roshan have just decked her?
No.
I'm joking. No, don't deck any grannies. But anyway, let's carry on with the story. What's the first story? So scams.
Yeah.
There's an issue with scams this week. A major story which Five Pillars broke. It had already started to go viral prior to this. It was about an Islamic investment website which had basically become embroiled in a major scandal involving Ponzi schemes. So Ponzi schemes is kind of the trend here. And it got us thinking after we reported this about the issue of scams that could be happening in our community. I think we've reported on other stories which are along these lines. Muslims investing their hard-earned earnings into things which they think is going to provide benefit to the ummah, to our community, and in reality they're being ripped off in one way or another. So obviously this story created quite a response. I think we got a lot of support for it, but also some people were quite concerned that we were, exposing people's sins and, creating, going against Islamic principles in that sense, which we reject, of course. So I'll pass it over to you, Roshan. How did you interpret all this?
Well, this is basically this is the Muslim Pioneer story, which you did a really in-depth article on, and I would encourage you, brothers and sisters, if you haven't already seen this, check it out on the Five Pillars website. Robert did quite an in-depth article, Muslim investment site embroiled in major Ponzi scheme in inverted commas scandal. So what we know about this, we don't know all the facts, but we do know that there are potentially hundreds of victims who are down thousands of pounds, tens of thousands of pounds, perhaps even hundreds of thousands of pounds. I think the ballpark estimate is that investors are owed up to £10 million or more, and at the moment they're not too confident of getting it back. So this is run by Aqib Ahmed, who's been quite prominent. This Muslim Pioneer, I think, was a recent sponsor of the GPU in London.
He was due to speak there.
Yeah, he was due to speak. I don't think he did in the end. I'm not sure why. Also, he was on Islam Channel a lot over the years. And reasonably well-known investor over the last 10 years, quite prominent in the community. So I think we're going to wait for this to play out. The police have been alerted. Action Fraud has been alerted. We're going to wait to see what the authorities say before we follow it up. I think investors are trying to. He's pledged to pay the money back, and he said that he's admitted to some shortcomings, some business shortcomings, and he's said that this is a genuine business that's gone wrong, and he's pledged to pay the money back. Let's see what happens. But I think we can, leaving this to one side, we can now extrapolate and talk about the wider issues of Ponzi schemes, which have affected our community. I remember OneCoin. A lot of Muslims invested in that. Then the Bulgarian, kind of person behind that suddenly disappeared, and now
gosh.
she's apparently in Russia, or maybe she's dead, or something like that.
No way.
So a lot of Muslims invested in that, this get rich quick scheme, and I think then before that there was a Ponzi scheme involving some Muslim investors about 10 years ago. I forget the name. I think his name was Con Mirza. He went to jail in Dubai. So this is happening again and again and again in our community. I know you spoke to Ibrahim Khan of, IFG, Islamic Finance Guru. What did he say in terms of practical advice of how Muslims can avoid getting embroiled in these Ponzi schemes?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I should play out just a short snippet of his talk, just to give you a taste of it. The full talk can be viewed on our social media, but let's hear it from Ismail, because he is the expert after all.
Too good to be true. It almost always is. If someone is offering you, and I guess in this recent case, the feedback coming back is double-digit returns on a monthly basis. If someone is offering you that kind of money, then something sounds extremely off, and one should avoid that like the plague. And I'd say the other critical thing here is that even if you have convinced yourself, or you're comfortable that all of these things are met, and you might have friends who've been part of this program and they're giving their testimonials, I wouldn't even necessarily immediately rely on that. I wouldn't even rely on, frankly, and this is the danger of these Ponzi schemes, money coming back to you as promised.
So he was just highlighting a few things to watch out for.
Can I ask you, Robert, because you investigated this story, I mean, how do Ponzi schemes work exactly?
So basically what it is it's an investment strategy where a company or an individual will say, if you invest money in me, you'll get great returns. And normally they're really juicy returns, like, too hard to resist.
30%,
they're very tempting, incredibly tempting, too good to believe, in fact. But unfortunately, people who are perhaps desperate or want to improve the lives of their family, for example, they'll be sort of enticed into these schemes. And then what happens is you put your money in, so you put maybe like £1,000 in, and then what happens is, how the scheme operates is with new investments coming in from different investors all over the place. The money that comes from one source will be used to give the impression to another that they are having some returns. So
moving money around.
Moving money around.
Not investing in anything.
Not investing
tangible.
in anything tangible.
Yeah.
There's no business here. It's just money movements.
Yeah.
And what will happen is, obviously the person behind it will usually take some of that for themselves and then give some back to everyone whilst more and more comes in. So it's a vicious circle. It's like a snowball effect, which will build up, 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 up. The initial investors in this might actually come away happy from the scheme, because obviously money, as it's coming in, the thing can continue to snowball and work quite efficiently, in fact, and it will take on the appearance of a legitimate investment operation. But eventually these things will always crash and will implode, and it's the investors right at the end, and there's normally far more towards the end than the beginning, who are left, because once the scheme collapses and the money goes, obviously there is no way to repay that money. And that's what that's why I think these schemes are so cruel, is because people of money, business people who are savvy, investors as well, actual proper investors, they can normally smell something wrong from the very beginning, and they'll be put off from investing. It's normally people who are completely ignorant about investments, people who are perhaps on a lower income, that want to improve the lives of their family members, that are sort of easily tricked into these schemes, and they'll give whatever they have. including their life savings
Yeah.
or their pension, whatever, in a desperate attempt to try and sort of improve the lives of their family. So it's a nasty type of scheme, but unfortunately it's quite commonplace as well, possibly in the Muslim community as well.
Why do
So
you think
this
we're
is something.
is it just Muslims that are attracted to these get rich quick schemes? I mean, it's not just
Not
Muslims,
not
but
just Muslims. No, I mean I think fraud and con artistry is one of the biggest
yeah,
modern day crimes that the UK and the world has to deal with, and they're very inventive normally, and they come in many different forms. But Ponzi schemes, yeah, perhaps Muslims are more
I think
vulnerable to that.
it's as
And
Ibrahim.
I'll tell you why. Sorry to just cut you off. When it comes to Ponzi schemes that might be active in the Muslim community, a lot of the time they won't just promise you big returns, but they'll also say, you know, you're investing in halal businesses, for example. Your money is going towards good Islamic causes.
Yeah,
They might, for example, as has actually been quoted in this story, they might take major Muslim personalities and Muslim celebrities without their permission and use their imagery in order to give the impression that, oh, we've got this Muslim celebrity endorsing this, who's also an investor,
right.
so it's safe. And then, of course, people will look to that personality who they love and respect elsewhere, like an Islamic lecturer, for example, and then they'll apply that trust that they have to that individual to this investment, which, of course, is very misleading. And just very quickly, Dr. Zakir Naik actually did speak out and was involved in this story. It's in the article. You can read it there. But he actually criticised the use of his image without his permission in relation to this Muslim pioneer story. So read the article. It's all there. And I think we do need to make an extra effort to educate ourselves about safe investments. And again, you can check out Ibrahim Khan because he's been platformed by us.
I think what he said in this video, just to summarize, is that one of the reasons why Muslims are so vulnerable to this is because we are a community, and these Ponzi schemes, they rely on word of mouth and trust. So if your brother or sister, uncle or auntie have invested, they're getting returns, they'll persuade you to invest as well. Whereas that sense of community doesn't exist elsewhere, whereas we still have it very strongly. But I think he said a couple of things. One is if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Ultimately, kind of halal proper investments will only probably give you 5 to 10% a year max at the top end of the range. Whereas if someone's offering you 20, 30, 40, 50% returns, something's wrong. It's a red flag. Another red flag is if it's not regulated by, I think it's the FCA, is that the Financial Standards Authority, something like that?
Yeah.
If it's not regulated by them, that probably means that they're kind of cowboys.
And don't just take their word for it. You can actually go and research that yourself. It's public information, so they'll be registered on their website, and you can actually go through the list and find these firms as well. So don't just take their word for it.
Do your homework and kind of just don't rush into investments. Don't let anyone press you to say, oh, if you don't invest now, you're going to lose your opportunity of lifetime. You do your homework, meet the investor, the guy behind it or the woman behind it face to face. Really probe them before parting away with your cash, and maybe don't part away with too much of your cash. If you feel it's a bit of a risk, do not put in tens of thousands of pounds. Maybe put in a few £100 or something like that.
Yeah, start off small and
something
see
you
how
can
it
afford
goes.
to lose.
Yeah, start off small, see how you can go. But we have an article published on 5 Pillars, which you can read about this.
There's a wider issue here, as we want to mention, and is that it is disgusting how people, with a level of authority in the community, and they're taking the ummah's money, and that is an amana, it is a trust, and they're literally, I don't want to use a swear word here, which I was going to say, but it's like floating away in the wind, and they don't feel that heavy responsibility. I mean, I know that we, in Ramadan especially, we solicit donations from the Ummah. That's how we keep going for the rest of the year. But when that money comes in, it's a huge responsibility for us. I feel it very strongly that, ordinary Mohammeds and Aishas and Fatimas, they're parting away with £5, £10, £100, £1,000, whatever, and that's a heavy burden that wears on me, and 5 Pillars in general, and we have to deliver on our promises that, all right, whatever we said in Ramadan, this is how we're going to spend the money. We have to tangibly show you that we've spent it that way. It's incumbent that we're not, taking massive salaries. It's incumbent that we're spending the money in in a kind of a halal way, that we're spending the money wisely, I feel that heaviness on my shoulders. I wonder if others do, you know, and I know that there are. I don't want to tar everyone with the same brush, but when you're taking the Ummah's money and you're literally squandering it, how do you sleep at night? You know, are you going to stand in front of your Lord naked on the day of judgment? What are you going to say to your Lord? You know, it's just not worth it to like squander 1 penny of the Ummah's money. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is something which needs to be emphasized a bit more, is the fact that you've got to earn a halal income. And
what you were saying to me before the show, it erodes trust as well. What were you saying to me?
yeah, that is a point that I feel, because, you know, as Muslims, we want to invest in our own community. I think there's a real appetite for that. I want to invest in Muslim charities. If I did invest money in halal causes and whatever, I want to do it. I want everything done. I want my mortgage broker to be a Muslim, ideally. I want the shops I go to buy my food, my groceries, to be a Muslim halal shop. I literally want to spend every dime I have on the community. But when you see these kinds of stories erupt, it just makes me feel like maybe I should go to non-Muslims to spend my money, because how can I trust it? And the fact that I even think that is an injustice, it's a crime, it's a shame. I shouldn't be thinking that. I should be thinking in what I was told when I took my Shahada, that you're now part of this community, you're our brother, and we will take care of you and protect you. And I know that most Muslims do behave like that. But when you get these notorious cases of Muslims mistreating their fellow brothers and sisters in a very cruel, nasty way, you know, these types of scams have real solid victims, and it's heartbreaking to see.
I mean, it's happened too much in the financial sector, but also charities as well. I mean, I'm at the stage where, you know, there's only 3 or 4 charities that I would give to, Muslim charities, and that's because I know them personally and I've seen their work. But even most Muslim charities, I personally wouldn't give to, simply because the amount of scandals that have happened. It's just completely unacceptable, and we just need believing and practicing, you know, people at the top of these organizations that are handling the Ummah's money, that fear Allah with a massive fear, you know, and tremble at the prospect of even wasting 1 penny of the Ummah's money. We don't have these people.
Unfortunately, yes. Well, as you said earlier on, we are keeping an eye on the story. We're going to wait and see how the authorities react to this, and we'll perhaps report more on this as it develops.
Do you think I know I'm going on about this, but do you think Islam has been... We're making a business out of Islam here, aren't we? And we're using Islamic, you know, terminology to sell a product, and we're doing it for our own benefit. We're doing it, you know, for our own financial benefit, and we're not Islam centered and Allah centered and God centered like we should be.
Well, we talk about liberating Palestine one day, and how can we do that if we just
if we're cheating each other?
Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that.
Hard-earned cash. I mean,
as simple as that. Yeah, it's as simple as that.
Right.
I think it comes back to how weak the Ummah is. If we're not even going to take care of ourselves, how do we expect to take on the proper enemies of Islam?
May Allah save us from all this, Robert. Seriously, because there's a responsibility on us. May Allah save us from ever kind of squandering the Ummah's money like this, because it's a great burden even upon us. I mean, the money that we get is nothing compared to what charities get, or what, you know, Muslim Pioneer got, but, you know, it's still an amana from the Ummah. And, you know, make du'as for us, brothers and sisters, that we stay sincere, and we're not overwhelmed by the fame that, you know, that ultimately our position can bring. And the rewards that possibly it could bring. I haven't seen them yet, but but one day it could bring. You know?
Exactly.
Just pray for us, brothers.
Yeah, no, inshallah, absolutely. Well, I think moving on to the next story, possibly, I mean, this is more encouraging, actually. This is a bit more of a positive story to lighten the mood, perhaps. Christianity is heading towards total collapse in the UK, while Islam continues to flourish. What a headline there. I really enjoyed writing this article, I have to say. According to a new YouGov poll, it's revealed that the Church of England is largely irrelevant to most Britons, while half the population believes it should be totally de-established from the state, meaning that its special status as the Church of England and the relationship it has to the government and to the monarchy should be totally taken away, should be totally taken down. So an interesting story. At the same time, Islam is growing. It's a growing religion globally. It's the world's largest religion now. I think it's fair to say. Easily the world's largest religion.
Christians don't practice their religion.
And it's doing very well in the UK, I have to say. So what was your reaction to this story, Roshan?
Mixed, actually. I know that you've got a massive Cheshire cat grin on your face. But actually, it's a bit sad that it's an opportunity, but also not a good thing as well, because I like people to be religious and believe in God. And, at least Christians believe in God. Atheists, they reject God. And they're the lowest of the low in my eyes, because they reject God. Obviously, everyone has the potential to change, and atheists can become believers as well. But the very act of rejecting God is the most enormous slander against God in the eyes of Islam. That's why someone with a grey beard and a bit old that we shall not name, that the Muslim community seems to love.
He loves a courgette. He loves a courgette, this man.
I actually cannot respect him like Muslims seem to respect him, because he rejects the existence of Allah, and that is the worst thing you can do in this world.
Yeah.
That is worse than setting up a Ponzi scheme in my eyes. You're rejecting the ultimate reality and the ultimate regulator. You are rejecting the existence of God. Is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is what this old grandfather-like figure does.
Yeah.
What was I saying?
Tell me more about allotments, Roshan. I'm really interested in that.
So in a way, it's sad that Christianity is declining and atheism is increasing in this country. On the other hand, it's a massive opportunity for Muslims. We can scoop up all these believers.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you were a Christian, a nominal Christian at times.
Yeah, that's C.A.B.
I was never a Christian, but I've always been interested in other religions. And in my youth especially, I read the Bible. Even when my children were doing RE at school, I took an interest in what they were studying and tried to help them learn about different religions. Because actually, I think learning about different religions makes your Islam stronger, because you can see why the other religions are false and why Islam is true. Now, reading the Bible, there's so many contradictions in it. It just doesn't stack up. If you're an intelligent person, why there's so many contradictions. It was written by human beings who didn't even know Jesus. Then you have the incredibly convoluted concept of the Trinity, which Christians themselves don't understand. Christianity just doesn't stack up as a religion.
Yeah.
So, but there are Christians who believe in God, and they want to worship Allah. So we should be doing da'wah to them and getting them over, It doesn't mean because they don't go to church that they don't believe in God or want to worship. It means that they haven't found the right religion. So it's our job to make them find the right religion. So it's an opportunity, but at the same time, we have to understand that this country is becoming more and more secular, and atheism now poses the massive threat. Not Christianity. It's actually atheism and secularism which poses the massive threat to the world, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that just shows how much Christianity has failed here in the UK. Is that they actually, like right-wingers, conservatives in this country, are preaching that Islam is the greatest threat to the British way of life, when actually, as you say, atheism is the second largest. We know as a result of the last census that atheism is the biggest religion, if you want to call it that, after Christianity in this country. Christianity is on a fast decline. Atheism is on a high rise. The Muslim community is growing strongly as well. But I mean, if you just look at the numbers, it's nowhere near as many, because obviously it's a minority at the end of the day. It's a minority community here. But, the fact is, it's like you said, I think I genuinely, before I even knew anything about Islam, as a young teenager who was religious, who was a believer, I genuinely tried to make the C of E actually work. I tried to implement it as part of my life. I went to church from time to time. I went to Sunday school as a kid. And I literally remember trying, going to church on a Sunday while the rest of my family stayed at home, just because I thought someone should go. Do you know what I mean? We should surely respect it somehow. And I just remember it was just totally irrelevant. Like what was mentioned on the pulpit just didn't reflect to me at all. There were no other youngsters there. It was just a bunch of grannies and granddads sipping tea and having a gossip with the vicar or whatever it was.
It's just a social occasion.
It's just a social occasion, yeah, and just a warm place to have tea on a Sunday afternoon. Or
What do you
whatever,
think, Robert? What can we learn as Muslims from the decline of Christianity in this country?
Just don't, whatever the Christians are doing, do the opposite. That's basically the bottom line here. I think we have a fantastic dawah scene. I think we have to remind ourselves that dawah is a powerful force. So politics, political activism, protests on a weekend, they're all important, right? But let's remember that dawah and spreading Islam is an effective weapon of the believer.
Can I stop you there for a second?
Let's keep pushing that.
I think that's a really important point that you made, because I think a lot of Muslims now, they're political Muslims.
Yeah.
Left
wing
associated, and they're more political than Muslim in many ways. They're nominally Muslim, but they're fanatically political.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that often jump on the kind of the left wing brigade.
Yeah.
But ultimately, everything stems from spirituality and belief in Allah, belief in the Quran as the word of God, the emulation of the Prophet ﷺ's life and example. Everything else stems from there. If you don't have that, then I don't really care about your politics, because everything has to be informed by that solid base. If you don't have that solid base, then the hijab becomes a political symbol of revolt against the system, not as a symbol of obedience to Allah as it should be. So I think Muslims, especially in the last 20 years, I'm a political Muslim myself, but I'm very clear that the politics side of me is subservient to the spiritual side of me. Yeah, what else? The other thing I would say what we should learn is don't compromise. The Church of England has compromised every step of the way, to the modern world, and now they don't believe in anything. You have gay vicars, you have women priests. You have. I think there's even a priest that is an atheist, believe it or not. Yeah. I think that does exist. Yeah, there's a priest who doesn't believe in God. Somewhere. Maybe not in the Church of England, but this is a famous news story. So I'm not making this up. Google it, brothers and sisters. Just don't Google it now in case I'm wrong. But there was a Christian priest in some denomination, and he said that he doesn't believe in God. But he's a cultural Christian. Yeah. Like a lot of these guys, like Donald Trump and Jordan Peterson, they're cultural Christians. Do you remember Jordan Peterson couldn't even answer the question, do you believe in God? Does God exist?
Yeah, I do remember.
So a lot of Christians are like this. They're nominal Christians.
It was an absolute joke.
Don't embarrass me, Rob. Look at that later.
But
do not compromise 1 inch of Islam. We have the perfect religion. And our duty is just to deliver the message.
Yeah.
It's not to question anything or say, is this compatible with that? No matter how much the kafirun hate it, our religion is there. It's there in its purity. All we have to do is understand it and then deliver the message, nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. And because public opinion will change over time as well. 1 minute they identify as this, the next minute that, it changes. And you get all these new trends, and I think they call it asphyxiation or something like that, social asphyxiation. It's some kind of trend where...
Google that, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're definitely not saying that right.
I'm definitely not saying that right. Asphyxiation, I think is the word. And it's basically like trends that come and become popular because when one person says... fads, essentially. But Islam is continuous because it's the perfected system. It's the perfect way to live. So we have to maintain, and the challenge for us is just holding on to the rope of Allah, basically. But one thing I do want to play out is Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, a right-wing political force here in the UK. He basically reacted to this concept of Islam flourishing, the Muslim community growing and becoming a force to be reckoned with in UK politics. He's obsessed with this. And I thought these comments were really interesting. I'll play out now and get you to react to it, Roshan.
But the nub of it is, we have a Muslim population in Britain growing by about 75% every 10 years. Right? That's just where we are. Mm-hmm. If we politically alienate the whole of Islam, we will lose. We'll lose.
So how does one include?
We will lose. By 2050, goodness knows what kind of a terrible state we're going to be in.
That was it. What do you make of that?
I agree with everything you say, Nigel. I
It's-
mean, look, I do believe in quality and not quantity, but at the same time, I don't think we could ignore the quantity either, because numbers do count. And obviously, the trajectory is clear. That we have more children than non-Muslims,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we're bringing up those children in Islam.
This is the thing.
So
What
you would think the trajectory is that Islam will get more powerful.
this is the thing. This is why I kind of hit back to this type of view. I mean, some people would look at the headline of that article, Christianity collapses, Islam on the rise, and be like, oh, why are you putting it in that way? You're making it look like we're not integrating or we're trying to take over. Well, the reality is that the reason Christianity collapses, it's on them. It's their fault. And they want to blame Muslims and Islam all the time, when the reality is it's them. Like this population issue, this is not necessarily a religious issue. It's like a right-wing issue. Oh, white people are not having kids and there's too many foreigners having kids and they're going to take over. Well, yeah, that's on you. Why don't you go and have more kids then? Why don't you marry? Why don't you actually respect the institution of marriage? Why don't you actually empower the church then and these kind of traditions? I mean, British families used to have loads of kids back in the day. That used to be the family model, the nuclear family model used to be important. Marriage used to be important. If you had relations outside of marriage, you became a pariah in your community. These were British values back in the day. Not that long ago, my grandparents talk about it. You know what I mean? And that's all been given up and abandoned because of what? Secularism, feminism, LGBT stuff, and all these other cultural revolutions that have taken place, which are apparently so great. But then you look at the population of this country and wonder why are white people having so few kids? Well, it's on you. That's your way of life. Don't blame Islam for having a better way of living, because we do it better, because we follow what Allah, the creator of the universe, has ordained for us for a reason, because he actually is the creator of the universe and he wants us to flourish, so don't blame us for Islam. If you don't like it, fix yourself or embrace Islam. It's as simple as that. Don't hate because you ain't. Don't hate because you ain't.
Just to finish this off, Robert, I mean, Britain's destroying itself. We don't have to do it. People accuse us of taking over and trying to destroy Britain. We don't need to do a thing. Britain is destroying itself. Now, when Britain was great, I mean, it was, in my eyes, it was never great, but when it was a great empire, it actually had a conservative society at home. It was built on those strong
Victorian era values.
Victorian values,
absolutely.
which you just described. But that is being eroded by the left, basically, in this country, that don't really believe in anything anymore. And we will see the consequences of that. We're already seeing the consequences of that. But the societal consequence of that, of children without parents, crime, just a weakening of the social fabric. We're going to see that over the decades to come. And it will weaken Britain as a country.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, it's become so toxic here in the UK that religion is portrayed as an enemy. Basically, it's like it's a force for evil, it's medieval, it's backwards, it's barbaric. That's how it's portrayed to people, and people believe it. But yeah, if you think about it, like abortion now, it's like
normal.
It's human. It's like human sacrifice. You want to kill a kid for what reason? What? Because you don't fancy having it without. I mean,
Muslims don't talk about abortion enough, to be honest. There's an abortion epidemic in this country. It's completely normalized, and Muslims aren't talking about it enough.
Abortion, which is like human sacrifice of kids, is celebrated as if it's something to be proud of. You have small families with like one kid at the most because they can't even afford it, and you wonder why the population's collapsing, and then you blame what? Muslim immigration for it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's stupid. The global population is collapsing. Eventually, if this carries on, we're going to reach a point where the economy will collapse, because every generation is getting older, and then you're not producing new generations to take care of that and to keep the economy going.
If we were cynical,
and it's not Islam that's destroying the world population, by the way.
What is? Oh, you mean it's
Western ideologies, Western ills? Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. It's like that. The West is destroying itself. If we were cynical and we really didn't care about this country or whatever, we'd actually just sit back and watch it happen. We wouldn't even talk about it. That would be the best policy. If we really didn't want the best to the people of this country, we'd just say, all right, get on with it. Have your gay pride marches and have your kind of, weird orgies and whatever.
You weird.
Drink as much alcohol as you want, just whatever. And that's what we should do if we really want to take over. But no, we're good people. We're here to make the country better.
Yeah.
And just take our advice and everything will be all right.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah, just stop hating because you ain't us, and actually listen to us for a chance. And yeah, if you know what's
They're
right,
just
you're
jealous, Robert. We got
yeah,
a successful
absolutely.
community
Yeah,
down here.
absolutely. Yeah, they look
Yeah,
at our
just
love,
jealous.
they look at our happy families and how we're doing, and they just hate on it. But yeah, let's keep this Christian bashing going, because there's a crazy crusader that's being selected for Trump's team to take over as Secretary of Defense. His name is Pete Hegseth. He's a crusader, former veteran, a wannabe crusader, former veteran who served in Iran, the Iraq and Afghanistan occupation, those illegal invasions of those countries. He's now stepping up to be Secretary of Defense, and this guy has some really bizarre worldviews, quite concerning, massive supporter of Israel, and so on. Let's just play out a clip now of a video published on 5 Pillars, which highlights all of these many issues of this Donald Trump pick.
Plastered across his body, tattoos glorifying the Crusades. Welcome to Trump's Zionist Cabinet, Part 1. Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick for the next Secretary of Defense. This abnormally large tattoo on Hegseth's chest is the Jerusalem Cross, a symbol paraded and used by the Crusaders, a group of mostly drunken Christian bandits that pillaged the Muslim world for centuries. His Latin tattoo reading Deus Vult, God wills it, was also a Crusader rallying cry in 1096. Today, these symbols have been revived by the extreme far right as glorifications of past Christian wars against Islam. This isn't even the worst of it. He also had engraved on his body the Bible verse, "I have not come to bring peace, but the sword." And having fought in the illegal occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan, these deeply concerning symbols begin to make more sense.
So yeah, what do you make of it? I mean, it's part of a trend, isn't it? It's just the
There's a
latest
few others, isn't it? Mike
Yeah.
Huckabee, I think he's the ambassador to Israel, and he's just a kind of a ardent Zionist. Obviously, you know, I think the Muslims have voted for Trump. I think 20% of them did, or something like that. The figures did come out, calling him anti-war and whatever. I mean, crazy. I mean, this guy, Trump's a nutter, and it is extremely concerning what he will do, because it looks like all his picks are pro-war, pro-Israel, and they're probably going to use the next 4 years to do Israel as many favors as possible and to destroy the Palestinians if they can.
Yeah, a lot of them have said things as well about the Palestinians, like the most crazy, insane, just not true at all lies from Israeli propaganda, like their narratives, which are so crazy that it just completely it appears to leave the realm of reality. Like Palestine never existed. There's no such thing as a Palestinian. It's just a made-up thing. These narratives are actually peddled by a lot of the picks that Donald Trump has made for his team. And they're sort of gaslighting the public with this whitewashed history, which is totally Israeli made and owned. And it's worrying, because I wonder how that will affect foreign policy. Obviously, already the US is, you know, helping Israel conduct its genocide, but I mean, are we going to see an attempt to totally wipe out what's left of Palestine, for example, under Trump? Could we be at that precipice now?
The big thing that Trump will try to deliver in the next 4 years is Israeli sovereignty over the West Bank. I think that's what they've got their eyes on. So yeah, it depends. Will the rest of the world, will the rest of the West acknowledge that as well, including the UK? Let's see. But yeah, I mean, I think on the upside, I think America is a very divided country, and Trump presidency will divide the country like before. And I personally think a divided America is good for Muslims. Not good for Muslims in America, but good for Muslims around the world. Again, I think America is going through this process where it's destroying itself, and Trump will probably accelerate that.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see, because I know he's got this thing where he wants to take on the deep state, and all of Trump's supporters are egging him on. You've got to take on the deep state, take on the CIA, take on all of these bureaucratic bodies behind the White House, sack, rein in all of the funding and everything else. So it looks like there could be a kind of internal bureaucratic sort of civil war take place in the US, and I wonder how that will play out. And like you said, it could destabilize the country so much so that perhaps the US will become more internally focused, and its foreign policy might fall apart a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and
Just
see.
I saw some figures from CARE which said something like they got their predictions all wrong. They said that there'd be a bigger vote for the Democrats, but something like 12% of Muslims nationally voted for Democrats. 18% voted for Trump, and about 50% voted for Jill Stein. But the Muslim vote in the end was pretty insignificant. It might have helped in Michigan, but Michigan wasn't the crunch state. But I think people that are coming out saying that Muslims swung the election and Gaza was the issue that swung it are misguided. I don't think the Americans care about Gaza enough to say that.
No.
And it wasn't the main issue on the table. And so we shouldn't make these overblown claims.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I saw no evidence of that when I was there, like you say. I think it was just about sending that message from the Arab Muslim voters, even if it didn't have much of an impact. And I think that was achieved. But obviously that was like a minor win, really.
In future elections, Muslim Americans may have more of a say. And it's important to build momentum to that day and get the community organized.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I wouldn't exaggerate it anymore.
They just need to keep growing that little enclave they've got in Michigan. That's my advice. Just make that bigger and bigger. Take over the whole state if you can.
Yeah, bit Sharia law as well. And...
Why not? Why not? Well, let's move back to the UK now. We're approaching the end of the show. There's basically this really bizarre story that's gone viral a couple of days ago. It's related to Laurence Fox, who's a far-right kind of commentator. Islamophobe, some kind of far-right activist. I don't know what you would call him.
He was an actor, wasn't he?
He's a failed actor, basically.
He's lost lots of lawsuits, and he seems to be drunk a lot of the time as well. He goes to Tommy Robinson. He's Tommy Robinson's mate.
Yeah.
So a far-right figure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, he tweeted this week about police officers that you should, I'll put the tweet on the screen here and read it out for you. So this was by Laurence Fox, who shared a video of a guy being arrested by police at his home. Buy yourself an axe and greet the pigs at the door with it. If they come knocking, the police are your enemy. Now, I mean, Roshan, you have a lot of experience about incitement, and I think you can say. would you classify that as incitement? I'm looking to you as an expert here.
If you or me tweeted that, we would be in cuffs by now.
Yeah.
So this is two-tier policing, Robert. This is two-tier policing. Look, I mean, that is a blatant incitement to attack the police and do harm to the police. It's an incitement to violence. I do not understand how Laurence Fox is still free. He's a danger to the public and a danger to the police and the wider public with that kind of rhetoric. Do you remember when he was at a protest in central London and he was absolutely effing and blinding at a police officer?
Yes, I do remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yes,
It was only a few months ago, I think.
Yes.
And again, nothing happened.
Screaming in the guy's face.
You and me do it. Yeah. Anyone else does it, we're in jail, and probably a lot of people will say rightly so, because we're literally inciting violence. Why is he not in jail like his mate Tommy Robinson? Tommy Robinson's in jail now for something that was quite a minor offence compared to the things that he has done, inciting riots in the summer. But this guy needs to be taken off the street. Laurence Fox needs to be arrested. He needs to be in cuffs. And if I was the police, it should be a dawn raid. It should be full riot gear because he's promised to be there with an axe, right? And they should take no prisoners, And they should use as much force as necessary to subdue this guy who has promised to be there with an axe. Take him off our streets. This guy needs to be arrested. He needs to be charged. He needs to be in jail.
Yeah, I mean, it's very worrying because he boasts a large following. I'll double check what his Twitter following is. It's over 500,000 followers. I mean, who knows who's going to interpret that tweet? I mean, he could turn around and say, it was a joke. It was one of my really rubbish jokes. I was a bit drunk at the time or whatever. But someone might take that literally. And if they see a police officer, they'll bring an axe. Do you know what I mean? Like, who knows what people are going to interpret on Twitter as well? A platform where anyone could read what you're saying and do whatever.
This is what the line needs to be. I'm a freedom of speech guy in the sense that we're living in a secular country, and in a way, freedom of speech gives us a lot of benefits as Muslims. And I hate the fact that some of the rhetoric But I don't call for people to be arrested. But I do call for people to be arrested when they're inciting violence. That's the red line. When you're inciting violence, which could lead to real life violence, that's the point where you need to be arrested.
Yeah, and it's like you said, imagine if anyone else had tweeted that. I just don't know. And he talks about two-tier policing, where he seems to have some kind of privileged status at the moment. So let's see how this plays out. But
we're going to talk about this every week. If he isn't in jail, we have to bring this up every single week until he's behind bars.
And there is a lot to bring up. I mean, we're just bringing up this one tweet, but the guy's forever going viral. Yeah, he's forever going viral for offences committed here or there and everywhere. Well, we've basically approached the end of our show, Roshan. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss? I know you always interrupt me before I outro.
I don't interrupt you until you start doing your outro, and then something occurs to me that I should interrupt you for. So no, I can't think of anything. Everything. Do you want to say anything else?
No, not really. We're obviously going to be bringing you more stories as we go, but yeah, it's been a good week, I think. I don't know.
I don't know if you want to.
Maybe we like to ask questions.
How can we improve the show, brothers and sisters? Because we want to make some improvements. I think we need to start putting the show on other platforms like Spotify.
That's a good idea.
And because I think a few people, not loads and loads, but a few people have said to me, it'd be nice just to listen to the show on the go. We have the choice of watching it, fine, but it would be nice to listen to it. So I think we do need to get Muslims Uncensored onto different audio platforms. We need an intro and an outro, a little bit of like Blood Brothers has. Maybe we can profile some of the comments as well, the best comments from the previous show. I don't know, have a section at the end.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We're approaching the end of the year, so we'll do our year review, I think, something we did last time. And yeah, we'll discuss what improvements need to be made. So yeah, I think
another idea that we had is
already
occasionally, maybe once or twice a year, we could even do this show live. Myself, you, and Dilly. We could go on the road somewhere, to the Badlands of the Muslim community in Birmingham or Bradford or whatever. Hire a community hall, preferably an ex-church converted into a mosque. And we could do it live with an audience, and we could have like vegetables thrown at us and stuff.
No, we've got a lot of good ideas, and I think we've been well received this year. So yeah, we'll get a chance.
Has it been about a year since we started it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
it's been about a year, isn't it? Yeah.
I joined in October, and it's past October now, and I think we started the show.
We probably started in November, so it's been a year.
Yeah.
So what can we do to improve Muslims Uncensored and to get more followers and viewers and
200 subs on YouTube.
Well, that's not just us. That's the YouTube channel.
Yeah. But I remember I joined.
What were we on? 100?
I joined. No, you was under 100. I joined. And
no, that is no. I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going.
Then let me finish. And then I go to the States. I do 100K video. A video with 100K views.
Best videos, though.
And then we passed 200K.
No,
I don't know. I think there's a strong argument to be made. A very strong argument that Robert Carter is taking 5 pillars towards 1 million subscribers.
I've got to say this, and he's already got a big head, and I don't want his head to inflate more. But I think YouTube is actually mainly Dilly's baby, because he's the one that started it off from nothing.
He got it.
And we were happy.
He got it to 80K.
No, Robert.
I got us over 100, and I took us on to 200.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree. I think I remember the days when we were happy to get 500 views on. We were ecstatic to get 500 views on YouTube.
This was pre-Robert Carter days, by the way.
No.
Pre-Robert
This
Carter.
is early days. This was like 6 or 7 years ago. And now we're a bit disappointed if we get less than 10,000 views.
Yeah,
that's like if we get less than 10,000 views,
yes,
and less than 200 comments, it's probably a bit underperforming our videos.
Yeah.
So you can see how far we've come. But I think if you look at the most popular content, it's still the Blood Brothers podcast, and it's and other one-offs as well. Yes, your video did very well.
The one-offs of me.
No. You've had videos that have failed as well.
Yeah.
And we all have. But I think that it is mainly Dilly's baby, and he should get most of the credit for YouTube.
He should get some. Yeah, he should definitely get some. There's no doubt about it. I think I'm a bit resentful the plaque isn't here on my show, seeing as I passed the 100K mark with the launch of my show. So yeah, that should happen. Right. That's my feedback for next year.
So Robert,
I want a new studio. I want a new studio.
You got an ego problem, Robert.
New studio.
You got an ego problem.
Do you know what?
We need to put you down a bit.
Well, basically, Dilly was everywhere. He was too overexposed on the platform. So now I'm here. So there's 2 sheriffs in this town.
I'm creating a Frankenstein's
monster. There's 2 sheriffs in this town. Well,
I'm the one without the ego here. The one that stays in the background, does most
just
of the management.
give the people what they want. They want more of me, all right? So just give them what they want. That's my advice. So next year, new show.
Comments, brothers and sisters, comments, please. Negative ones. I mean,
Yeah, so tell Roshan, put him in his place, educate him about what's working and what's not. Clearly it's me, but I think that's a strong ending for the show, so I'm happy with that. I won't let you interject.
Never invest with Robert Carter, put it that way. Because you don't know where your money's
going. It's a scam. Well, thank you very much, brothers and sisters. It's been a pleasure to have you on, as always, viewing the show. We will be back next week, inshallah, with another edition of Muslims Uncensored. So for now, it's Assalamu alaikum and ma salama for now.